welcome to Openplay under the magnifying glass. Now, before we actually start with looking at an example of the game in play and looking at all the moves available, I'd like to first of all concentrate on the cards on the table. And first of all, look at the cards that are shared centrally. These are set up at the very beginning of the episode. Firstly, we have the fresh evidence stack. This is made up of the 54 cards in play, and this is where each detective draws their fresh evidence from. Next to that, we have the 3 detail cards. These are the cards that detail the actual murder episode to be played. We have the victim card, the crime scene card, and the time of death card, and these can be reviewed by all players at any time. Finally, we have the summary card, and this is just a brief, quick reference to the rules of playing open play format. Now we're going to look at the cards that are collected by each detective during the game. They actually start off with none of these cards at all. Firstly, the chief suspect cards. 1 card for each evidence type: motive, means and opportunity. And these are the cards the detective thinks are the most valuable, and can only be taken by other detectives by the use of a snoop. Cards that are deemed to be less valuable are put in the filed evidence stack, which the detective can review at any time, but these are also available to be taken by other detectives. That's it for the cards on the table. Now let's look at the game in play. Each detective has the choice to fetch fresh evidence or exchange filed evidence on their turn. In the majority of cases, the fetch option is chosen, so we will look at this option in detail. When a detective fetches a fresh suspect card, they must read it out aloud once, clearly for all the players to hear, before deciding how they will keep the card. This scene is early on in the episode, and Sue is about to fetch her first opportunity card.
For now. Mark Pepper. We got wind of Mark Pepper becoming active, said an MI5 spokesman, from a reliable source. Cameras were installed to cover the exterior of his terraced property, and a GPS tracker was hidden in his watch. He claims to have been at home, and the cameras back up his story. However, a junior surveillance operative remarked that his GPS traces in the house seemed more akin to those of a dog.
As this is early on in the episode, and this is Sue's first opportunity suspect, it can immediately take its place as a chief suspect.
Simon Ashcroft. Simon Ashcroft, stunt director turned film director, is a master of words as well as martial arts, so convincing the victim to open the door would have been relatively easy. His colleagues back on set tell stories of how he dismisses people. If he talks to you in an overly sensitive way, you know he's about to fire you. Still, waters run deep in Simon.
Emma already has a means chief suspect, so she now has to consider whether she makes Simon her new chief suspect.
Robert Small went to Edward in late 2014 to help refinance his company, as he struggled with an asserted attack on his clients by his previous business partner, Gary Young. Yet far from offering assistance, Edward was now demanding a sizable share of his company, where he would fund Gary instead, and hasten his company's demise. Was Edward working in conjunction with Gary to crush him?
Sam has a similar decision to make. Does he keep Barry Fern as his chief motive suspect, or does he replace him with Robert Small? This turns out to be an important decision in the game.
I'm going to keep Robert. Barry is discarded. Casey Gilmore. A visitor to the hotel was seen by CCTV arriving and leaving at the time that tied in with the murder. They wore a light grey hoodie and ensured that their face was always turned away from the cameras. Casey Gilmore owned a similar hoodie. Whoever was wearing the hoodie was keen not to be seen and knew the camera locations. Pure Casey Gilmore. Sounds like pure Casey Gilmore to me.
In this example, Sam decides to keep Louise Rose as his chief suspect, and instead places Casey Gilmore in his filed evidence.
Hold on to Louise.
It's a snoop! Ooh. Swap any chief card optional.
Josh has picked up the first of 6 possible snoop cards that may be fetched instead of a suspect card. The snoop card contains different actions depending on the format being played, so in this case we just need to follow the open format instruction. This is a level 2 snoop, the more valuable of the two, so Josh can swap any of his chief suspects with another player, but only if he believes it valuable to do so. In some cases, a snoop may not be worth playing, as it may harm your hand as opposed to help it. This is early on in the episode, and Josh has yet to fetch an opportunity card. He can therefore only swap his motive or means chief suspects, which he is happy to do.
Right,
Oh.
yeah, sorry.
So, question,
You have to play.
do you have to swap like for like?
Yes.
Right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a little...
This is an excellent example of when to exchange filed evidence instead of fetching fresh. On the turn immediately prior to this one, Nigel fetched a second card that pointed the finger at Barry Fern, making Barry a prime suspect. Sam had previously demoted Barry to his filed evidence stack, but now has had a change of mind. Rating Barry as a more likely suspect than Robert, he decides to perform an exchange from his own filed evidence and return Barry to the safer position as a chief suspect. This move proves crucial to Sam winning the episode.
Collect my Barry.
Ooh, Barry's back on the
Barry
table.
is prime. You've got swap means cards, right?
Which
So
are
you
the
can-
means one? Yeah.
The green one.
Oh.
So you're gonna have Jason, but Barry is mine. Okay.
Sam is somewhat relieved to point out that Nigel cannot use his snoop card to snatch his chief motive suspect, as Nigel's snoop is a level 1 snoop, that is evidence type specific, and can only be used to swap means suspects. Nigel therefore is left to reconsider his options.
Stay away from
Change
Barry.
of player, then.
So you could instead just
I could
steal.
You can steal
Louise.
Louise.
Louise is a lead.
Right behind my
Or you can steal Julie. Julie's
yeah,
another lead.
Yeah.
Whichever you think is more likely, judging by the story so far.
Barry
Because she was
Fern.
on.
Ooh.
Oh! He's the one then.
Yes.
Barry Fern.
And you've got
Discovered
both
the
of them.
killer. And I have 2, so that means I win.
Wow done.
So with Sam fetching the third card that identified Barry as the suspect, the murderer is revealed, and Sam wins by holding 2 of the 3 incriminating cards as chief suspects. If Sam had not exchanged his filed evidence when he did, to reinstate Barry as his chief motive suspect, Nigel would have been the winner.
Who's got the other one?
I knew it.
Nigel.
Nigel. He was trying to nick Barry
Go on then,
Fern.
you
That
read-
was the one he wanted.
Read them all.
Yeah, you see, if you'd have nicked Barry Fern, you would have won.
Alright, let's well then we know who's the
Yes,
motive.
what
So
was wrong with Barry Fern?
his motive to kill Edward Quincy.